Very good afternoon to all of you. On behalf of the Department of Engineering, School of Engineering and IT, Arkajan University, I, Dr. Kirti Rai, Assistant Professor, would like to welcome to our VC, Sir, our Director, Sir, Registrar, Sir, Director Campus, our Assistant Dean, Sir, and Honorable Speaker, and all the participants of the 5 days National Faculty Development Program on Smart Cities, Opportunities and Development. It is my pleasure to introduce our Honorable Speaker for this session, Mr. Kamal Nasir Sir. He is currently working as Deputy Director, NPTI Eastern Region, Durgapur. He has completed his MBA in Power Management at NPTI Faridabad and also is certified energy auditor by Bureau of Energy Efficiency. Nasir sir has nearly 1 year experience in project management as senior executive with Lenco Anpara Thermal Power Plant Limited, and also he have over 5 years of experience in operation and maintenance of thermal power plant, including testing and commissioning as an engineer. Today he is with us to share his view about energy management. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation. Now I would like to request you to please share your views about energy management.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I hope my presentation is visible to all.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is visible.
So I'll be starting with energy management itself. India, being the second largest mostly populated country in the world, contributes to about 6% of world's primary energy consumption. Due to rapid urbanization and the urban population increase, there will be serious implication on energy consumption and subsequent carbon emission. Cities face a series of complex interconnected challenges across different sectors, and it is critical to relook at these challenges by integrating the principle of energy management for achieving sustainable and low carbon urban development. Managing these energy footprint in cities is one of the most challenging goals. And with the evolution and transformation of existing cities into smart cities, the energy management thus becomes an integral part of the urban development. Now, keeping this in mind, let me guide you through the presentation. We'll be looking at the present background scenario of country, why we need this smart energy management or smart cities. Then we'll see the government had launched Smart Energy Mission in 2015. Then we'll go into the core infrastructure elements of the smart cities. And then what is energy management and why it is required. We'll be focusing then on the frequency management of the grid and the challenges that the grid faces while managing this power flow. And then we'll focus on the smart cities. So going to the background of this, the energy consumption of India is increasing day by day, and this has drastically increased in the last 15 to 20 years. Even though our energy consumption has increased, when compared to the world level, we are consuming only 1/3 of the monthly household consumption in terms of energy, and 1/10 when compared to that of the developed countries as USA. The energy extensive consuming area in India as well as world comprises of the power sector. Though the power sector generates energy, but the auxiliary power consumption in this power sector varies from 8% to 14%. 8% or the lower side being for a higher rating power plant such as 500 megawatt or supercritical power plant ranging to 660 and 800 megawatt. And the 12 to 14% auxiliary power consumption is for the lower rating power plant that are generally captive power plant of 100 megawatt or below. Then transportation sector is one of the most energy consuming areas in terms of oil. It has some electric vehicle, but mostly oil. The industry sector also consumes electricity. Agricultural sector consumes electricity. Generally, during night time, we provide free electricity to this sector, but they also have for their irrigation purposes. And the last one, what we are talking about in building, this commercial as well as domestic, it comprises of more than 30% of the total energy consumption. If you look at this graph, as per the sales recorded in 1718, this is provided by the Central Electricity Authority itself. The domestic power consumption comprised of more than 26% of the total energy sold. And as per the graph, the consumption of electricity by various sectors, again, the domestic sector comprises of 24%. So we need to focus on these sectors in order to conserve energy or in order to bring down the emissions. In the world scenario, if we look, again, these sectors, industry, transport, and residential sector are the energy intensive sectors. And this shows various kind of energy consumption based on oil, natural gas, electricity.
Sir, Kamal Nasir, sir, it is not audible, sir.
Hello, 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 hello.
Yes, sir. Just a minute. He's joining, sir. Just a minute.
Okay, okay.
Uh,
Actually,
no, there is some
actually,
network issue. He's
okay,
just joining, sir. Huh.
okay, 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 okay. Thank you.
Actually, sir is trying to join, so please wait for a minute. Ye- Yes, yes. So previous slide, please.
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yes, sir, you are audible and the screen is also
Okay.
visible.
So I'm starting from beginning again. The energy consumption of India has drastically increased from last 15 to 20 years. Despite this increase in the energy consumption, we are a third in the world as per world average in monthly household energy consumption and 10th as per the energy consumption of developed countries like the USA. The energy intensive sectors in India as well as world comprises of the power sectors that consumes nearly 8 to 14% of the auxiliary power consumption. The power that it generates of that for 8 to 14% is consumed by the generating stations itself. The lower percentage, that is 8%, is consumed by the power plant that are higher rating power plant, that is 500 megawatt or 660 megawatt or even supercritical technology power plant of 800 megawatt. And the 14%, 12 to 14% energy is consumed by the lower rating power plant. Those are basically the captive power plant of rating between 50 megawatt to 120, 130 megawatt. Transportation sector again is a highly energy consuming sector which consumed mostly in the form of oil. Industry is also consumes in electricity as well as other fuel. If you take an example of aluminum sector, it consumes electricity in the arc furnace, and again it consumes carbon in the form of electrodes. Agriculture sector also consumes electricity as well as oil for its irrigation purpose. Now, building, commercial as well as domestic building, are a major source of energy consumption. If you go by the statistics provided by the Central Electricity Authority, this is the latest one, 1718, you'll see that the domestic sector consumes more than 25% of the total sales of electricity. Again, as per the consumption of electricity by sector, the domestic sector shows 24% electricity is consumed by the domestic sector itself. Commercial sector is 9%, industry at 42%. And if we look at the world, the industries, transport and residential sectors consume energy, most of the energies, and that can be graded into oil, natural gas, coal, biogas, and waste and electricity. Now, India is a fast developing country. Its GDP tends to increase in the top 3 range. Means China, India, and United States will be the top developing economies. Not only in terms of economy, India ranks top in the worst air quality index as well. So we need to focus on the environmental concern also. Urban population of India tends to increase to over 57% in the next 30 to 40 years. Due to this, the task of managing and reducing energy-related carbon emissions pose a challenge. So it is imperative that the urban challenges such as mobility, provision of green and resilient infrastructure, waste management, access to reliable and clean energy, these needs to be addressed through energy management. It is important to develop policies that can address our concerns related to urban energy demand, influence of the future carbon emission, and achieving the sustainable developmental goals. Keeping this in mind, India had entered into the climate agreements. Latest one is the Paris Agreement, so that India will focus more on the renewable sector development and will limit its greenhouse gases. With this in mind, India had given an ambitious target to set up 100 gigawatt of solar capacity addition by 2022. Out of this, 60 gigawatt will be commercially developed and 40 gigawatt will be developed as rooftop solar power plants. If you go by the present scenario, presently India generates electricity from thermal power plants, renewable energies, hydro power plants, and nuclear power plants. The latest data that the Ministry of Power depicts is India is generating around 379,000 megawatt or 379 gigawatt of power as a whole. Out of the main power generating entity is the thermal power plant that comprises of 233 gigawatt of power. Renewable power is taking a boost for the last 20 years as the Jawaharlal Nehru National Solar Mission was there. And again, this government had put up a tentative target to set up 100 gigawatt of solar power plant by 2022. But still we lack in this. In order to tackle the growing carbon emissions and in order to provide quality life to its people, the government of India set up the Smart City Mission in 2015. So the Smart City Mission was launched in 2015 to address the governance and infrastructure structure. This was by integrating the Internet of Things technology. This mission aimed to integrate smart technology in different sectors to achieve sustainable urban development. So the mission aimed to derive economic growth and it would improve the quality of life. Here the main stress is on sustainable energy development. In order to do that, the government focused on the 6 fundamental principles of smart cities. Again, if you go by smart city, there is no comprehensive definition that this is a smart city. A city becomes smart if we can achieve a smart way of the targeted goal. As such, we want to have a targeted smart traffic control or smart waste management control. So we need to have a specific target to attain that. In attaining this, the government core sector was that it will improve the life of the people. So community at the core, the government focused on selecting the cities by competitive arrangement so that those model cities could be developed and other cities could look into those as model and develop itself. So innovative methods were taken up and various sectoral and financing convergence was done. If we break everything into this, the core infrastructure will consist of Internet of Things is there, smart education, smart health, smart mobility, smart MS. Every sector will be focusing on making it smart. I'm not going to deal with mainly with the Internet of Things technology. Other speakers are taking up that. So if you take a simple definition of smart city, smart cities have the potential to improve the quality of life while ensuring the needs of present and future generation with respect to economic and environmental challenges. See, this is a simple definition, may not go everywhere. Other people may have their own definition of smart city. So in order to develop the smart city, what we have seen there, we have divided ourselves into various heads, that is the water supply, electricity supply, sanitation, including the waste management, We should have a robust IT and digitalization so that Internet of Things could be connected everywhere. Then transportation and urban mobility, good governance, sustainable environment, then security and safety of the citizen, and health and education. But while managing energy, we'll be focusing on the energy aspect of this, that is assured energy supply. Electricity, we will be using e-vehicles for transportation, so we have to focus on the urban mobility and public transport system. Then again, robust IT and digitalization connections should be there. And apart from this, we have to focus on the urban emissions, that is the sustainable development should be there. Now, if you look into this, this is a overview of how a smart city would look. So it will have its generation that will depend on the conventional source of power generation, that is the thermal power generation based on coal, oil, diesel, anything, gas. It will have the renewable sources of generation, maybe solar or wind. And if this city lies in the coastal area, that can incorporate the tidal generation even. Then it will have a smart distribution. We'll look into it, how we'll manage the distribution into this. Then transportation system should be so developed that there is no issues while managing the power flow from one end to another. So there should be no congestion effect. Buildings should be smart so that energy saving can be there in the building, because domestic and industrial buildings consume a lot of energy and people involvement has to be there. I think I am audible till now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It is also audible and visible also. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. So keeping this in mind, energy management again can be defined in various ways. One of the way to define is that energy management is a component of smart city development, aiming at site-specific and continuous transition towards sustainability, self-sufficiency, and resilience of and local renewable energy sources. I have again defined it differently in this presentation, but major bullet points remain the same, that we have to maximize our productivity and conserve energy so that there is efficient use of energy. So there are 3 bullet points which mean we need to focus in the energy management, that is energy efficiency. We need to be energy efficient, so wastage has to be avoided. Diversified source of energy so that our growth is sustainable. We cannot depend only on, say, thermal power generation or only on solar power generation or only on a particular source of generation, because if that source of generation is cut off at any point of time, then our project will be stopped. And again, we have to conserve the energy. Apart from this, we have to save the energy. Saving the energy wastage will inculcate this monitoring, controlling, and energy conservation principle. Now, how we have to ensure the flow of power from one end to another. So a generating station will be providing power to our smart city, or the smart city itself will be having our distributed generation, that is the solar, rooftop solar it can have, or it can have centralized generation. Again, then this centralized solar generation will have to transmit its energy. So before going into that, we must look into this grid, how it is managed so that there is no shortage of power flow in our system. So we have to minimize this demand and supply gap. So demand should match our supply. If the demand matches our supply, then we'll have a desired frequency that will be running into the grid. In India, we are having 50 Hz. So if demand, suppose we have 100 gigawatt of demand and 100 gigawatt of load is connected, then the frequency will be 50 Hz. Now, any change in this will give a frequency shift. So if supply increases, then our frequency will increase. And if our supply decreases and demand increases, then our frequency will decrease. So we have to focus on this. And this grid management is done by basically the frequency management code is there. That is IEGC, Indian Electricity Grid Code. So what can disturb this grid? Grid can be disturbed if there is a frequency variation, be it under frequency or over frequency. Second, it can be disturbed if there is a voltage variation, over voltage or under voltage. Grid can be disturbed if there is a rate of frequency variation is beyond a certain limit, means within a short span of time, frequency variation is drastic. And last is all the generating station connected to a grid fails. This means there is a power failure, there will be a grid blackout. If you can remember, there was a grid blackout last in July 30 and 31st, 2012. This was the major blackout, means this was the biggest blackout till now in the world because of the population that it hit. So we need to manage the power flow effectively in order to manage the grid. I'll come to this slide later. First, we'll see this, how we are managing this grid analysis that has to be done. Means we have a national load dispatch center at the center, means one national load dispatch center is there. And we have regional load dispatch center. The grid is divided into 5 regions, that is the eastern region, northeastern region, western region, and southern region and northern region. So we have 5 regions. So we have 5 regional load dispatch centers. These regional load dispatch centers will communicate with the national load dispatch center and this state load dispatch center. So as per the number of states, we will be having the state load dispatch center. Below also we have load centers, that is the sub LDC, that will be within the district level, but we are not going below that. So whenever we are having this problem, we have to schedule our power flow 24 hours in advance. In order to give a smooth functioning of this, the time is divided as slots. This 15 minutes time is given as one time slot. So in a day, we have 96, 24 into 4, 96 time slots. The power scheduling takes place 96 time slot before. So if there is a state, it will, if we have a state, this will be the state load dispatch center. This will get information from this state load dispatch center will get information from the generating stations that are within the state. Means all the generating station within the state. Suppose it is Jharkhand. Jharkhand is having generating station, maybe state generating station. State generating station before 24 hours or before 96 time slot will give it the information that that it has so much power generation that will be taking place before the just a minute. This, I think I'm not able to write into this. Suppose we have a state load dispatch center, that is SLDC. So this SLDC will give information, will get information from all the generating entities, that is the state generating stations, then the center generating stations. In Jharkhand, if you suppose we have the DVC as the center generating stations, then we have the private players. Private players will give the information. Then we have the captive power plants. power plant. These many things will give the information to State Load Dispatch Center 96 time slots or 24 hours before that we will be generating our power and how much quantity of power. When the State Load Dispatch Center gets information from these states, then the State Load Dispatch Center will get information from the consumers. Consumers will be the industries, commercial consumers. Every consumer will give information to this SLDC that it will be consuming this much power in the next 24 hours. So once it gets the information, the State Load Dispatch Center will decide how much surplus power or how much deficit power it has. If there is no surplus or deficit, this means the generation matches with the consumption requirement, then the State Load Dispatch Center will give the information to the RLDC that it has no excess power or it has no deficit. But if there is surplus or deficit, then the SLDC will ask for that power or will ask RLDC to take its surplus power. Then the Regional Load Dispatch Center will decide where the power can flow from which region to which region. This will be decided by the Regional Load Dispatch Center. And this will adjust the power flow between the states within the region. So once this is done, then the Regional Load Dispatch Center will give its information to National Load Dispatch Center if there is any deficit or surplus power remaining with that region. Suppose the Eastern Region Load Dispatch Center says that it has 20 gigawatt of surplus power to National Load Dispatch Center. So this National Load Dispatch Center will then decide on the power flow between the region. This means intra-region power flow will be decided by RLDC and inter-region power flow will be decided by NLDC. So initially we had the 5 grid. These 5 grid got interconnected into one in 2013. But this interconnected doesn't mean that unlimited power flow can take place from one region to another. There is still limited power flow because the power flow. So this was from generation end. In the consumption end, we are given that demand side we should manage our power flow. Demand should not shoot up. Our target is that the demand should be flat throughout the day, throughout the week and throughout the year. This is not possible. If this possibility is attained, our frequency will never hunt. As per present scenario, the allowable limit of frequency deviation is 49.85 to 50.05. This was revised after the blackout that we had in 2012. At that time in 2012, the frequency variation was allowed between 49.5 to 50.2. So now we have a narrower bandwidth. And so there is a possibility that we can conserve energy or we can decrease our peak or we can achieve a flat load curve by demand side management as well. Even when we are not having the smart cities, government or the electricity department or the power sector is forcing people to take up this demand side management. Now, how we are going for this? If we can go for conservation, we were having this incandescent bulb, then we moved to CFL bulb. Now we have the LED lighting system. So the illumination level remains same. So without hampering the work output, we have decreased the power consumption. Initially, the bulb was of 100 watt. Then we moved to the tube light that was of 40 watt. Then we moved to the LED tube light that is of 20 watt or 18 watt. Again, if you have had a look at the electricity bill that you receive at your homes, now we are having different time of the day, we are having different tariff or rate of electricity. Why? During the peak hour, the electricity department is trying to avoid this peaking of this load. So during the peak hour, the cost of electricity is very high. And during off-peak hour, the cost of electricity decreases. So this, in a way, encourages people to take up this load shifting arrangement. Suppose during the peak hour, that is the evening hour, when the lighting loads increases drastically, that is the peak hour, suppose 5 to 7 p.m. we need not start our heavy equipment, means that is ironing system or washing machine or pumping system, water pump. We tend to avoid starting this system, and we can use the electricity for this water pumping system or washing machine during late night hour after 11, when the cost of electricity decreases significantly. So this helps us in shifting our loads from the peak hour to off peak hour. In this itself, you will find that cold storage system runs at late night, means the cold storage system will freeze the water to ice at night and use that ice throughout the day. So this is an example of load shifting. Again, if there is no probability or no chance that load can be shifted, then the target to achieve this is attained by valley filling. Means suppose we have set up a power plant that is 100 megawatt, and during peak hour it uses all its capacity, and during off peak hour the load decreases to 50 megawatt. So we have to decrease the generation. So this is in a way losing efficiency, because we could generate more and we are forced to generate less. So if at that time we can attain this valley filling method, then the flat load curve can be attained and the power plants can run effectively and more efficiently. So this valley filling is also taken up. In this way, we are encouraging this demand side management. Again, in order to encourage this demand side management, the billing and tariff was also changed. If you go 30 to 40 years back, we had two-part tariff system. That is fixed charge plus variable charge. Fixed charge was as per the peak demand. If we have to set up a meter at our home and our peak demand will be 1 kVAR, 1 kilowatt hour, then we'll fill that form for that, and our fixed charge will be fixed according to the peak load for which we have demanded. And the variable charge will be as per the energy consumed. So you have consumed 5 units of energy and the cost will be around 5 rupees, then 5 into 5, that is 25, will be the variable cost. But this did not play any role in order to manage the grid or support the grid. Support the grid, I mean, in order to support the frequency settlement or frequency stabilization within the frequency band. So a third parameter was taken up, that is fixed cost plus variable cost plus UI, and this is plus minus UI. This parameter was brought, we call it unscheduled interchange. We have already managed the grid for scheduling 24 hours or 96 time slots before. Now, if there is any variation in that scheduling, that has to come into place as unscheduled interchange. Now, this unscheduled interchange part will be either plus or minus. So, fixed cost plus variable cost plus minus UI. Any institution means either it is generating end or it is consumption end, which will support the grid in order to stabilize its frequency, will be given a reward in terms of cost. And whichever tries to destabilize it will be penalized. So this UI factor is reward or penalizing factor. Suppose any consumer had given that it will consume 1 megawatt of energy, consuming 2 megawatt of energy, and at that time, due to some reason, the grid frequency was below 49.85. So if it starts consuming more energy, so in a way, it is destabilizing. So the frequency of the grid will fall below 49.85. So the cost of electricity that it will be bearing will be fixed cost plus variable cost plus UI. So the cost of for it will increase. And at that time itself, suppose another consumer decrease its consumption so that the grid frequency is up to above 49.85. So its cost will be decreased, that is fixed cost plus variable cost minus UI. It will be rewarded. So this UI factor is a reward and penalty mechanism so that every consumer or generating stations can contribute to the grid stability. So we can have effective energy management through the grid. Now, when we are focusing on the smart cities, we have now there are more than 3.6 billion people living in cities. After 2050 or by 2050, more than 75% of the population will be in cities. In India, after 2030, it is projected to be around 48%. This up to 80 billion people objects are connected. Now presently it is 100 billion and it is projected to reach about 150 by 2028. So this will be the infrastructure. Everything is connected. This slide just shows about how we are, everything is connected. It's Internet of Things. Everything will have a data which will be shared to others. So everything will be connected and interconnected, and it will be sharing the real-time data. Now, before going into details of that, just take into example the Uzbekistan is termed as a smart city project. So it is not that the whole city becomes smart. Everything will be automated or everything will be smart, but it is a targeted project. So what is your target and what you wish to achieve will be the important factor. So in this Uzbekistan, it was focusing on energy efficiency and low carbon emission so that the greenhouse gases could be decreased. So it had to reduce its energy consumption and focus on renewable sources of power generation, and greenhouse gases will subsequently decrease. In order to reduce the energy consumption, it had to tackle the traffic mechanism. Means it was turning its traffic into a smart traffic mechanism. Again, the traffic control system was to be smart. This means everything in that traffic control was connected centrally using this IoT. Generally, if you the parking lot, parking space is available or not. So we have to go inside and then turn back. Or which place is a slot for parking available. So when you go for a smart parking, at the entry itself, you will be depicted which column or row is not able, so that you don't burn extra fuel by tracking the vacant space. Uzbekistan took up this. If you take up Singapore, Singapore has a bold smart nation vision. What again, it doesn't mean that everything it will convert into the smart. Singapore will focus on live smart traffic portal that is supported by information gathered from surveillance cameras on the road and taxis. Means it will be installing the cameras on roads, and the taxis that will be moving will be having a camera. So the data will be fed through these. Yes. Again, it will be. It is focusing on installing smart bins. For smart waste management system, sensors will be there that will send alerts when the capacity of the bin is nearly full. Again, the video-based parking guidance is being installed in the airports of Singapore. This is the first of its kind that will monitor the car parking status. If you go to Vail in Colorado, USA, it is a small city that has a population of around 6,000. It is using a Wi-Fi system of its countrywide network for security surveillance and parking enforcement. Means it is again focusing on reducing the energy consumption in the transport sector. It is also using this for controlling heating and irrigation system, tracking the suspicious vehicles, and monitoring crowds during major events. So this is focused approach of every state, whether what it tends to achieve in the smart city progress. If you go to Melbourne, Melbourne is using this smart project to anticipate its future population boom. This includes the pedestrian counting, and public Wi-Fi system is being used. Means throughout the road they are using their public Wi-Fi system and the cameras. The city also uses this, Melbourne I am talking about, this city will also use smart technology for rubbish collection and efficient use in the smart city technology, energy use in the smart city technology. So these are few examples that around the world are using this smart city, smart technology. So when we are focusing on this smart technology, If we break it into few parts, it will be energy, where we are managing energy. Again, in energy, it will be smart meters, grid, electric supply, everything. Then in the transportation sector, which is another energy intensive sector, will be the energy e-vehicles, will be the plug-in electric vehicles will be using. Then cyber security and data protection is important, though not related directly to the energy management. Then is the another energy intensive sector is the building, domestic and commercial buildings and homes. In this also, Indian government has a policy of smart homes, that is green building code has come up in order to force people. Now people are not taking up this, so they are forcing people in order to go for green building code. And public services such as energy efficiency and renewable energy, waste and public lighting system, and other accessibility to the public Wi-Fi system and all. So this is basic infrastructure which we had dealt up earlier also. So what are the public which will be involved in this? So we have a smart city. It will have a smart grid. So we were focusing on why we should manage grid. This grid will have a generation from conventional source of power generation, be it coal, gas, and oil. It will have generation from renewable sources, be it solar, water, solar, hydro, wind, tidal, anything as such. And everything will communicate with itself in real time. And within this smart city, the transportation sector will gradually shift from the oil base to electric vehicles. So again, electric vehicle will be another source of electric power consumption. Buildings, commercial as well as domestic, is already there. So we need to focus on these things. So if we simplistically, if we want to define a smart city, it is a sustainable and efficient urban center that helps to provide residents with high quality of life by optimizing resources. Again, optimizing resources means our work output should not suffer, but we must conserve our electricity or energy. We must remove this wastage, and we must be able to diversify our sources so that we are able to reduce the carbon or greenhouse gases. Now we can take an example of how this smart technology is taking place, is taking its part in managing this energy. There are 4 heads which I have divided into. It is the inputs is taken by meter, sensor, etc. that will providing the digital inputs and outputs. Then we can have the SCADA system. Again, for the SCADA system, this can be divided into wire and wireless technology. If we go, SCADA system, which we are going in other countries, will be the wireless technology, basically the Zigbee technology. This can be Bluetooth, Zigbee, cellular, etc. But India presently we are going on this SCADA technology, that is a wire technology. Other wire technology example can be the PLC and optical fibers. Again, third is the geographical information system, where we need to know about every aspect of storage, generation, management, and which location is the power generation, which location power generation has failed, which location power generation or consumption has any issues. And then we'll program it accordingly so that we can achieve our desired objective. So in order to understand this, let's take simple example. Suppose we are in a classroom. We have desired to make that classroom a smart classroom. So it is not just that we'll have a smart display and it will be smart. Now in that classroom, suppose we have 4 lighting equipment, that is tube light or any other LED light, 4 light is there. We have a cooling arrangement. In India, basically we have cooling arrangement. In other countries, we can have heating arrangement as well. Cooling arrangement, suppose we have an exhaust fan, we have an AC, and we have another 4 ceiling fans. Then we have a computer system and a smart board where it will be projected. So for this classroom, everything will be located, everything will have an identity. Each tube light location will be marked by these chips and sensors, and this will give information to a central room or central server. Now, for taking up a class, the most critical equipment has to be identified first. So the most critical power consuming equipment here will be the smart board and the computer system that needs to be on when a class is going on. Second important system will be the lighting system. There should be sufficient light so that people who are in the classroom, if they are available in classroom, they don't face any trouble in writing or reading any object. And the cooling system will be the consideration, because if AC is there and fan is there, so AC will consume more power and fan will consume less power and will manage the energy. Suppose the computer system and lighting board consumes 10 watt of energy per hour. The lighting tube lights we had, suppose it was 10 watt of lighting system. 10 into 4 is 40 watt. And AC is consuming, suppose it will consume 1 kilowatt hour. And the ceiling fan is of 45 or 50 watt, it will consume 45 or 50 watt per hour. Now, we have designed that the room temperature will be between 26 to 28 degrees centigrade. So exhaust fan is around 40 watt itself. Now, there will be a smart switch available that will send a signal to all the equipment. Suppose we have scheduled a classroom and a motion sensor will be there. So when the motion sensor detects the movement in the class, the first thing that will switch on will be the AC system, so that the temperature comes to the desired level, and it is an energy consuming area. So we have programmed AC will switch on first and then the exhaust simultaneously. It can be, or exhaust first and AC, desired location where it is then. So we will switch on this. Second, what will switch on will be the display system and the computer. Now, suppose there is a power shortage and we are not able to have the desired flow in this classroom. So what will happen? First is that the AC system will trip. Means a command will be issued to the AC to be off. The lighting system will be on. Suppose that 4 lighting systems are there, but the 2 lighting system or 2 tube light were sufficient to provide us the desired lumen. And the exhaust fan will be off and the ceiling fan will be running. Now the computer is on, the smart board is on, the fan is on and the light is on. Now suppose even if in this situation we are not able to get sufficient power from the grid, then again we have to program that the cooling system should go off first and the lighting and the other systems should remain intact. Suppose the command has gone to the cooling fans to go off. So the temperature management of this room will be our last consideration. So ceiling fan is switched off, and if possible we have sufficient power, we'll try to switch on the exhaust fan so that some ventilation can be properly maintained. Now if there is not sufficient power and 4 tube lights are there, then automatically 2 tube lights will go off and the one exhaust system will start. So this is what we are doing in the programming end. We have to select the critical equipment which has to be on so that the process, our desired objective, can be fulfilled if there is any deficit in power flow. Suppose this system is applied in the grid where power generation is there. A power station is there that has suppose 10 units of generating station of 100 megawatt each. So 100 megawatt power station is there and grid frequency, it was generating 1000 megawatt of power. So each power station will have an entity and it will be fed to the software through the SCADA system. Now suppose there is a variation in the grid and the frequency of the grid is going above 50.05 as per present grid code. So if the grid frequency goes up, a signal will go to the generating station to decrease its generation. Now again there are 10 generating stations. Means 10 units of their particular generating station. Which unit will decrease its generation first? So the priority of this generating station has to be fixed. Suppose we have fixed 1 to 10 generating station is there and we have fixed similar number to all. Means 1 number generating station has the priority 1, 2 number has 2, 3 number has 3 and so 10 number has 10. So the action taken by during decreasing the load will go to priority station 1. Now grid frequency had shot up little bit. Suppose it was 50.05 desired, it has gone to 50.1. So a signal for slow action will go to this generating station. That slow action means it will decrease its generation by about 15% to maximum. Maximum 15% generation will decrease. So unit 1 generating station, which was generating 100 megawatt, will come to 85 megawatt. And then it will wait and see whether the frequency of the grid has come below or not. Suppose it does not come below, then second unit will be given command to decrease its generation, then third. So in this way, all 10 unit will be given a command to decrease its generation so that the frequency comes below 50.05. That is between 49.85 to 50.05. If this is attained, then it's okay. If this is not attained, even after decreasing the 15 megawatt load of all the generating station, then a command will go for fast action for the priority 1 generating station to trip. This unit 1 that was generating now 85 megawatt, it will trip, it will stop generation. So its generation will be 0. And then it will see whether the frequency has come within range or not. Now suppose it after tripping this, the frequency comes to about 49.85. So what will happen now? So it will give again a signal to the other remaining 9 stations gradually from 2 to 10 to increase its generation a little bit so that the 50 flat generation, 50 hertz flat frequency can be maintained. So this happens when we are in a generation end. Now, if you are going for a consumer end, if you consider that we will be providing energy to consumers, so consumer will be having their desired load. So from you might have seen that earlier there was quite a lot load shedding. Why? Because when we were not able to keep this frequency within the desired limit, earlier it was 49.5 to 50.2, presently from between 49.85 to 50.02, then load shedding takes place. If we are moving below the desired frequency level and we are not able to increase the generation to cope with the increased load, then what we do? We have to shed the load. So load shedding will be there so that we can attain our flat frequency range. So in this way, our system, when we will be looking at the overall prospect of a grid and smart city, that is when we are looking at the smart city where we are getting power from renewable energy sources, that is the RES, and from other generation station, that is the power plant, we have our electric vehicles also. So the grid has become a complex entity. Why? Because it has moved away from the conventional source of generation, transmission and distribution, and it is now having other sources of generation. Even the consumers have become producers. So in order to manage this, the grid has to be active and has to compare every feeding of the power generating stations, be it from consumer end. I'm telling consumer end and power generating station because consumers have their rooftop energies that they are integrating it to grid. Now suppose we have a smart city. So we are having our grid, renewable energy sources, and our electric vehicle is there which will be consumed. We don't know which time electric vehicle will be put into charging. This means the charging infrastructure of electric vehicle will be a load. Will this electric vehicle will charge at the office, that is industrial area, or it will be charged in our domestic parking area? So this electric vehicle will become an industry load if it is being charged at the industry and in our office area, and it will become a domestic load if it is being charged in the domestic buildings. So the load is fluctuating, intermittent, and it cannot be predicted when this will be charged. So this variability in the functioning of the grid has to be taken up. Also, the energy crisis and the global impetus to go green, renewable energy sources. So we have renewable energy sources which are intermittent, unpredictable. In India, we have 300 sunny days and nearly 8 hours of sunshine that can produce sufficient energy. But 8 hours energy production out of 24 hours. And if cloud comes, this solar power generation is greatly hit. So we don't know when the power generation will stop and when the power generation will increase. Same is with the wind energy. The velocity of the wind decides whether wind produces any amount of energy or not. Again, from the load point of view, the plug-in electric vehicle is another source of variation that is being put into the grid. We are going for energy storage system. This means we are having battery banks. Again, these battery banks cannot be unlimited, means we cannot have infinite storage system available. Energy storage system presently occupies a larger space, and smart city is coming up with a view in order to maximum utilization, optimized utilization of the available space. And so we cannot give maximum space to this battery storage system. The presence of more than one energy source in the grid needs for an energy efficient management system to guide the flow of energy. And this variability and volatility nature of the renewable sources and the uncertainty nature of the plug-in electric vehicles poses a problem. Also, the varying load and the energy prices, as I told, the time of day when we were having a load curve, the rate of electricity varies. The energy management system can effectively coordinate the energy sharing and trading also. Suppose now we have a solar power installed in the rooftop of all domestic and commercial buildings, and there can be a time of day when we will not require energy from the grid because we have sufficient renewable power generation available. So we will become a generator for the power and we'll be feeding power to the grid. And when we will be feeding power to the grid, the load will drastically decrease into the grid because we were consumers and we have become producers. So when we are feeding power to the grid, we must be getting some money. So the tariff, what will be the tariff which will be given to us for the amount of electricity fed into the grid? So this has to be again decided. So this policy has to be integrated, and whether our infrastructure is ready or not. Why I'm focusing on infrastructure? Every state in our country has solar policy that is different from other. Just one example, I'll not go in details because renewable energy topic which faculty will be taking, will deal more with that. Suppose if you see in Rajasthan and Gujarat, they allow 100% solar rooftop solar power flow into the grid. 100% is based on the distribution transformer rating. The transformer rating that is giving power to our homes has certain capacity. So how much solar power can be fed into that system is decided by the capacity of this distribution transformer. So is 100 MVA transformer, so 100 MVA power from solar can be fed into the grid. But if you come to this is allowing 50% of the distribution transformer capacity. Again, there is another option to this is that the distribution system means we have distribution infrastructure and we will not be taking power from those distribution companies, be it government or private entities. So it will not be taking power from them and we are their source of revenue. Why will they allow solar energy penetration to that limit that their revenue suffers? Already, the distribution system is a loss-making system in our country. And if they suffer a loss in customer base, so they will assist that. So this is happening in Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, West Bengal, this eastern region mainly. So we have a rooftop solar power generation and we are able to integrate it to the grid. Again, loss to the grid also with this smart city technology, and our energy management system suffers due to this. I think I'm audible to all of you.
Yes,
Yes,
sir,
sir.
you are.
If you have any query, you can ask.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, yes.
I am Dr. Subrata Kumar Devnath from Mathematics Department of Techno India Group, West Bengal.
Yes.
First of all, thank you very much for this outstanding session, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
This is just an outstanding session. Okay. So many thank you. but I have many questions on that, 20 or like that questions. But if I ask all the questions, sir, you will first beat me, and my dear participant will also kill me. Okay. So so I will ask one or two questions out of that 20 or most question and some suggestions from my end. But the first question is, as you are told, that India is one of the biggest developing country. Okay. And development means in every sector: economic development, social development, technological development, and so on. So for this purpose, the energy consumption is a mandate. Okay, whether it is industrial or official, whatever it is. Now the question is, where this resource of energy will be taken. It may be from ordinary sources like oil source and
I lost your voice, sir. If you could repeat the last line.
Okay, may I ask you the question, please? Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Okay, and so energy is a must. The question is, this energy, source of energy will be what? One thing is the as usual energy source, as for maybe water, আমরা যেটাকে বাংলায় বলি জলবিদ্যুৎ. Okay, anyway, so it may be thermal power, or it may be whatever, maybe some renewable source as far as solar energy and all other things. But my question is, the first question is, what would be the source? The source should be firstly on local source. Local means in the global content. That means we shall find out the sources of energy in between our country. Okay, why it is this? Because we want to optimize our cost. Right? And whenever you optimize the cost, there may be some side effect. As for example, we use extremely oil-based energy generation, the carbon emission will be a problem. That means whenever we are optimizing some, say, cost or anything, another side effect will be there. So our ambition should be to minimize the side effect and to maximize the sources so that we can properly utilize the energy in different sectors of life. Am I right, sir?
Sir, I got your question. I think you are asking that in the future, if you look at the future perspective, what will be the primary source of our power generation or energy that will be utilized? I suppose this is
exactly that.
Sir,
exactly that. And another thing is, this is the future plan, number one. Number two is, whatever I am telling that the source should be local in the content of global thing. So is this concept clear? Is this concept okay?
Yes, sir. Sir, we have.
Okay.
Sir, I'm audible.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible. Am I audible?
Yes. I got your question, sir. Let me answer it now. Afterwards,
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. I need not to get the answer. I even know the answer. But what I am telling now is suggestion. Okay, and this is that the question is that is this being practiced in India? If it is practiced, okay. If it is not practiced, then why?
Sir, suppose now your question is very broad. Now let me tackle it one by one.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Now, if
Thank you, sir.
Consider the centralized generation system, we have the least cost of power generation comes from the hydropower plant. And as per the Electricity Act 2003, it proposes that every power generating station will have a spinning reserve. Spinning reserve is a sense that whenever there is a requirement of peak load, the load goes beyond the prescribed level, then each generating station will have at least 1% spinning reserve so that they can increase their generation during that time. But in India, despite this law, not a single generating station, thermal reserve. Now, the side effect of this is that we have to shut down our hydropower plant so that they work as spinning reserve. The cost of hydropower plant generation is least in India, and we are shutting down our hydropower plant in order to meet the spinning reserve requirement. So law is something else, we are not able to tackle that. Law is clear. Second is that in order to have this smart grid and smart energy management, every generating station should run in free governor mode of operation, means free frequency mode of operation. This means that each generating station has to give its control of how much megawatt it will generate to grid, so that when the frequency increases, the grid can give a signal to decrease the generation, and if the frequency increases, generation will decrease, and if the frequency decreases, generation will increase. This will be in coordination with grid itself. But not a single generating station in India is running in free governor mode of operation. Neither DVC, nor NTPC, nor any state generating station, nor any private entity is running in this. Reason what they are citing for not following this law is that because the frequency band of Indian grid is wide, if it allows the control of their generating station to the grid, there will be very much variation in their governor control, and they will require much maintenance. So we are not able to do that, and this excuse, the government cannot take action because our frequency band that has been narrowed to 49.85 to 50.05 is still big. In the Gulf, if you go, the frequency band with respect to 50 Hertz is 49.98 to 50.001. So nearly state line. So there this excuse cannot stay. Second, for future power generation technology, we already have solar stations in the space which are ready to give in wireless power transfer technology. But no developed country is ready to take up this, means take this power. They are waiting for this third world countries to accept this, because we have to see what is the effect of this wireless transmission of energy on a larger scale, because it will have a certain frequency. As the wireless technology frequency had endangered many species, what this will have effect on ourselves and in other species. So no one is ready to take up. So third is we are going in latest technology in the vast energy storage system, and the space constraint which we have is being looked at. We are going for that underground, means it is not underground, this we call it submersible, underwater. We are exploring the technology to enhance our energy storage system underwater. This is the present condition. And regarding the solar technology, we call this solar technology a green technology. But in reality, solar technology is a green technology at the site of utilization. But it is not a green technology at the site of production. Because to produce that carbon wafer, we are polluting the environment. We are going to emit greenhouse gases. And if you compare the greenhouse gases emitted by the production of that solar cell, this is no less than that emitted by this coal-based thermal power plant. So solar power generation is green only at the site where generating power. Wind power generation and this tidal power generation which we are going, tidal power generation is also taking place in our country, but in a lower scale, and the policy is not been designed so. But present policy is encouraging the wind power generation in offshore as well as onshore, so that the habitat is also not endangered and this green power can be tapped. Sir, some part of your question I think is answered.
So thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. And I think all the participants will be enlightened by this session. We are enlightened by this situation, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you. This is an outstanding session. I enjoy it. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Any other person has any question?
If any participant have any query, kindly put them forward. Thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable thoughts on energy management in various sectors. And thank you again for accepting our invitation.
Ma'am, anyone is, if they have a query, if they can mail you the question, then I'll reply to you the queries regarding the query if afterward it comes up.
Sure, sir. Please mail me the queries, mail to the host of the session the queries if you have any, dear participants. The question would be solved by our honorable speaker. Thank you again, sir. Thank you for being with us. Dear participants, the feedback forms and the attendance links have been shared in the chat box. You can fill them now. And the joining link for the third session has also been shared. Kindly join us for the third session at the same time. Thank you.
Okay, excuse me, ma'am, please.
Yes, sir.
Hello. May I fill up the feedback after some time, say at the evening or at the night? May I do it?
Sure, sir. Kindly have the form link with
Yeah,
you.
I will fill it, but not just right now because I will
Sure,
enjoy the.
that is
Okay,
up
I
to
will
you.
enjoy the session first, then the feedback. Okay, I will do it.
Sure, sir. Not to
The main feedback is in my mind. Okay.
Sure, sir.
So I will fill up all these things. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So I'm concluding the session 2. Thank you for your presence. Please be present at the session 3.